Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are Wireheads. This is a podcast where we talk mostly about Cyberpunk RED, occasionally dinosaurs, and once in a great while, the state of our fractured reality. My name is Emmerron. I am one of the two people who runs this crazy thing, despite not ever podcasting before we started this thing 68 episodes ago. Joining me, as always, of course, is my co-host.
Hello, everybody. I am Diamond Dust. I am also a professional GM. I do stream here on Twitch. I am also putting stuff out on YouTube as well. Which, by the way, you should check out the astroturfing video. I have found a great opposition that people love to hate. And also, it's okay if I mind if I tell them what I would like for them to do for episode 69, so that way we just. Can get that out of the way.
We
All right.
roll.
So, importantly, we are not going to be having Wireheads next week because
I will be in Gamma.
Yeah, or well, somewhere in the airspace over North America.
That's true. Somewhere between Louisville and Charlotte. Yeah, that'll be where I'm at next week.
And I'm not sure what I'll be up to. Maybe I'll figure out something else. But with that though, I have something important to ask all of you to do. Episode 69, nice. It's coming up here in a couple weeks, and I am thinking of partaking in some of the good grass, and we just. Categorize. We do tier lists on all things Cyberpunk RED, and one of the things we're thinking about is the DLCs, which there's a lot of DLCs. We'll talk about what DLCs are not really going on the tier list because of certain stipulations that they need to meet. But I would love for all of you to either send something over in Emmerron's Discord or my Discord, and you can ping me. That's right, you can @ Diamond Dust in either of the Discords and tell me what you would like to see the Wireheads categorize. And some of the
we do. I just want to shout this out. In my Discord in particular, have a Wireheads Q&A channel. I don't know if Diamond has one over in hers as well.
I don't, because we have the one in your server.
Beautiful.
Because
so
you should be in Emmerron's server as well if you're in my server.
Yeah. So
what are you doing?
I'm gonna just ping this again to our live chat. The Discord link is of course down below on my half of this video, so that you can sign up and be part of that community. I have been known to occasionally do giveaways too when the mood and the resources suit me. So that does happen too sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, put it in the Wireheads Q&A channel there. That will give us a spot where we can collate that and gather that together. Then Diamond and I can kind of discuss things when I get back from Gamma.
Alongside DLCs, I think I'll take the next top 2 or 3 topics, maybe a 4th, and we'll figure out what we're gonna tier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's gonna be that. So, with that in mind, Emmerron, what are we talking about on this second half of the episode today?
So I was just transferring the eds that our good friend Militech Catalyst in chat sent me to my bank so that I may use them more easily. Thank you,
Congratulations.
By the way, on that. I so appreciate that. So as far as what we were talking about in this half of the episode, some of you may not have heard yet because this is brand new information. Literally, this dropped, I think, just after I woke up this morning. We got a DLC, which is very cool. And I would like to say it's early in the month, but it really isn't. We're on the second to last day of the month, kind of, more or less, as we're recording this. Third, technically, yeah, but we're on the 26th of February. The 28th is the end of the month. So we got right before the end of the month, as we usually do.
29, I thought.
No, that's only on leap years. 28 days, unless it's a leap year, and that's only the years that are divisible by 4. So yeah,
that's gonna be another Friday the 13th then.
So we got ourselves a new DLC today though, and unlike usual, this month's is, and I'm gonna brighten my maybe not, that's a little too much. It is a scream sheet. And not just any scream sheet, but a mercenary level scream sheet, similar to the 2 that we got in Solo of Fortune 2045 in the back of Interface Red Volume 5. So if you guys have not picked that up, our little discount code thing does not work on that because it's only on DriveThruRPG. However, I would recommend getting it because it is a very, very, very good supplement and introduces the whole top tier of play, basically. Like if you want something to hit your players with because the corporation owns something that the players can't get access to, that is more likely than not where you're going to find it. And this scream sheet was designed particularly to be used so that you have some content to run at that level of play. It warns you up front straight away that this is not for normal street level play. If your players are brand new to the game, as we discussed over in Diamond's half of today's episode, if they are new to this will kill them. Straight up, without exception, this will kill them. Because this is very difficult. Even with a properly trained group of people that has leveled up enough to like be ready for this is going to be hard. I do not recommend doing this unless your players are ready for it.
They have made note that you can also make some adjustments as needed. Yeah. At the end of the day, this feels like something though that is very mercenary level, and I think this is the first time they've ever released anything that it's strongly suggested you should have a secondary piece of paid content.
Other than like certain plus DLCs that you could argue are kind of in that vein too. But yeah, it was pretty clear and implicit that like this is for this. This very much feels like Solo of Fortune 2045 plus in some ways. This is because we got 2 scream sheets in that book and I agree. Oscar just says SOF 2045 could have stood alone as a separate book. I don't disagree. It is like, I think even Jay and James said it blurred the line of like what a book or a bonus article should have been. And it was like, which side does this thing fall on? Because it really threads that needle pretty tight in terms of going from one to the other. But all that said, getting your hands on those rules, kind of important. Or at the bare minimum, having a group of high-level edge runners that are looking for something more difficult than your average street level shit to like bite onto. They are going to be fighting such thrilling things as tech upgraded weapons, body doubles, and even a Cyber Psycho rank 7 solo that has every reason to kill them. There will be no holds barred, and all of this with a intentionally limited number of tools at their disposal. And time, yeah.
Also, the Cyber Psycho in question is functional.
Oh, no. They are... James, I think, has made it very clear in the way that this was written that there's nothing functional about this Cyber Psycho. He is just Cyber Psycho. Because he's been dripped saline instead of drug treatments for his psychosis.
It's just he does not rip and tear everything in sight. Well,
and you know what? Neither does a Cyber Psycho in one of the Tales of the Red adventures. But he's still a Cyber Psycho. He still has empathy 0. Like, yeah, no, this is... You're very much in this guy's a Cyber Psycho. But the bottom line is, this adventure, so I'll give everyone the kind of the sales pitch on this, without spoiling anything, because I don't believe in spoiling things. You are going to a wonderful place, a place that I'm sure everyone in this chat has dreamed of going one time in their lives, and that is North Korea. And specifically, you are going to this fiefdom within the kind of warring states kind of situation that North Korea now exists in 2045, known as New Britistan. Now, New Britistan is a kind of a weird place, kind of wacky. I believe James told us in particular the golf course that we see pictured in the front of the article, the art of which was done by Dolan Pondsmith, who again killed this, completely knocked it out of the park. But that golf course is literally built over the bulldozed remains of a culturally significant Buddhist temple in the region. That is why you have the little Buddha statue in the background. So just something worth mentioning, something worth bringing up, because fun little trivia bit that we learned. However, you're going there to kill a warlord who goes by the handle The Rooster.
Not the warlord, a fixer.
Oh, a fixer. But yeah, bottom line.
They're doing it now because the warlord's out of town.
That's right. Yeah, no. Good looking out, because I've only barely read this thing. Because I've been on a boat all day today. Far from cell connection. But yeah, you are going there to kill the Rooster, an arms dealer. And the problem with doing this, there are a couple complications. One, aforementioned cyber psycho who is his bodyguard. Two, he has a body double that literally acts the same as him in every way, including to the point of having a literal 1-to-1 replica of his pistol that is like a signature of his existence, right? And the third complication is this guy's got this whole little fiefdom of people wrapped around his finger. So that means the police are all against you. The people are all against you. If you try to move and he doesn't like it, you are going to get killed. The only way in or out is being smuggled in a very, very, very compact compartment in the belly of a truck. And you can only carry in, I think the adventure calls for a maximum, not a minimum, a maximum of 10 items of gear between the lot of you. And you can only be wearing Kevlar. You cannot even be wearing light armor, Jack, when you enter this place. Because it would be too bulky to fit you into this tiny compartment. And if anyone in your party happens to have a body of 10 or greater, then you have a -1 item for every person whose body is that big. So have fun, I guess. So the reason we want to talk about this adventure, beyond the fact that it's just our new DLC for February, is this is kind of the second adventure that we've seen do something really novel and interesting. And that is, as with a fair number of scream sheets, this is not presented in beat format like most adventures in like Tales of the Red would be. However, specifically in Tales of the Red Hope Reborn, there is a gig where you are to plan a heist. And that heist is presented in beats only to fit the structure of a gig's being written, you know? But the beats largely are, the hook is where you get the details. The development that follows is you gathering details on the spot you're about to hit and knock over. And the kind of climax of the adventure is executing the heist and just all that entails. And you are basically just given the details, the parts, and then told, do the thing, right? And this adventure is written in a way that very much leans into that style, right? It is not telling you, you'll do this, then you'll do this, then you'll do this, then you'll do this. It is simply saying, this is your way in, which also happens to be a way out if you do this successfully with no one noticing that you're the ones doing it. And if you can nail that to the, you know, absolute end of your employment here, you can get out this way too. If you fail that, then some other interesting things happen that we won't talk about. But the bottom line of this is you have a way in, you know the people that you're up against, you know the guy you're here to kill, and everything else is kind of up to the party and for them to do in the smartest way that they can. And that is really important. That it is written that way. And I know Diamond here is also basically has experience writing gigs this way. I also am dabbling in it, although I haven't published the gig in particular that I will be talking about yet. But I'll talk about some of my experience with writing this. But Diamond is currently the GM every Wednesday night, running a campaign called Operation Broken Circle. I am a player in it, as a matter of fact. I play the Netrunner Zero Day. And that has been a blast so far, but I have to imagine that you inserted... Your design was largely built the same way that this gig's design is, which is to say, here is the entire settlement that you need to bring down in the next 2 months. Here's all the things that exist there. Here's the ways in which maybe this could happen, but largely it's up to the party to make these connections and make decisions that lead to the desired objective. I'm actually firstly curious, Diamond, how similar in the way this is put together is this to the way you have kind of built out Operation Broken Circle and Breck's Garden and the whole of the way that that's constructed?
So, just to make it very abundantly clear, I had no further knowledge on seeing double leading into this, but I felt that one of the things that really makes a Merc campaign like go to the edge of your seat is the time window. And I had considered the idea that I would give you guys 2 months to just basically make this small, like, well, original intel says it's just a military encampment. No, you guys have discovered this is a small city.
It is a military encampment, but it's a military encampment in the sense that it is a full-blown forward operating base built around a town that has existed there for a while and has been ballooned into this, like, it's certainly a colossus of its own right, and we need to tear it apart.
All the birch beer comes from birch. So when I was thinking about like creating this, the objective at the end of the day was operations have to stop. It has to stop. All we know is it needs to be done in 2 months. They have something that they're planning in June. You need to get in, get out, don't be seen, and if you are seen, make sure you're not caught, and just shut down all operations. And if you can, catch Steely in the mix of it, and deliver him to Boise, great, nice little paycheck on top of it. I'd be interested to see if you guys snatch Steely before you finish up operations. And then these guys are going to have to scramble to figure out, oh, okay, the boss is gone. What do we do now?
Remind me, were we specifically told not to kill him? Or was it just you get a bonus and he's brought alive?
It is 7,000 eddies if you could capture Steely and have him extracted to your guys' your contact Needy will deal with the transportation of him to Idaho. You need to get him to the transport is what it's going to be. I know spoilers, but that is if you can even nab him.
Yeah.
If you're able to shut down his if you're able to just leave him like stuck in the mud, the job's done. But if you kill him, it's $3,500 for your operational budget. So it's nice. Nice little tack on.
Not nothing, yeah.
And you'll have you just let Needy know what you want, and then you need to go grab that airdrop, which will take time away from operations in Breck's Garden. But something else that I've noticed with the way Seeing Double is laid out is the fact that we've got, and I'm not going to spoil it too hard because like what's relevant about these places. But you definitely have still the haves and have-nots, and even such a small scale location.
Yeah. Well, clearly we found the giant labor camp that exists just south of us, which is already, I mean, it might as well, I mean, it's a labor block, but the whole south of the like facility here is literally.
We give them apartments. They're fine. They get their kibble. They get their apartments. They're fine. They're fine.
Yeah, if you say so. I bet once we wander in there, there's a reason that shit's getting painted on walls for resistance movements. But yeah, bottom line.
Don't be a delinquent.
Yeah, don't be a delinquent. Yeah, of course. Bottom line is just south of us, there is definitely signs that things are not okay. And that has all been relegated to the south end of this giant complex, essentially.
The wrong side of the fence.
Yeah. And I'm sure that fence was put up by entirely impartial, well-meaning people.
You're right. You are so right. I am so glad you're on the program.
Yeah. Jeez.
But also on top of that, like the fact that they are requiring you to cram yourselves into the smuggling compartment of a truck, that's creative. Because I thought, nah, I'm not gonna make it too hard for you guys to get in there. I want you guys to get in and get on with your mission. But that makes it interesting. And also that is a very tight operational budget that they're giving each mercenary as well.
Yeah, $1,000 ain't nothing.
1,000 eddies.
$1,000 ain't much.
That's like 2 EMP grenades. Or a rifle and 500 and like 5 packs of armor piercing ammo.
When you gotta be like really picky because of how tight the gear budget is in general. You have to be really picky about how you burn that even. So it's kind of interesting. I like the way they lay this out, but because you gave us pretty much carte blanche in a big way as far as like what can we get in there. Well, we have a whole convoy that we're basically bringing in, and it's been arranged that we're okay to be there as a convoy.
People had laid the groundwork ahead of you for this.
Yeah,
you're just now the C9 charge is getting planted. Oh,
I just heard something behind me that I was like, what the fuck was that? It's fine, we're good.
So when designing missions with time pressure like this, I appreciate that it's like, once time's up, the job's over, get out of there. And I was actually thinking about that with my gig. It's just like, I have like soft cap. It's gonna be 10 episodes. If we hit episode 15, everything has gone wrong. The clock is out. You have no more time left in Idaho. You need to leave, or you are going to be discovered. And the fact that this job, you only get 3 weeks to get this figured out. That means you need to do your recon, your planning, and execution. And it's a 3-week cadence, but like, how many sessions would you put that? Because I feel like this would be like maybe a 3-4 session job, maybe a little longer, perhaps.
I could see it. Considering that the nice thing about open-ended gigs is that they can get really complex, and they are good for as long as the timeline lets them be. Because I know I've seen players spend an entire day doing meaningful progressing the narrative type things. But that's one day in the game basically. So in 3 weeks is a luxury in a lot of cases. It just depends how you go about trying to discover things and how much time you're burning really accomplishing that. Because like if you want to be really comprehensive, you're probably going to spend about a week like tracking the rooster's movements and stuff and trying to get a sense for like, okay,
Yeah.
where is he going? When is he going there? Like, is there any kind of pattern that he follows? Are there ways? The second thing, if you care to figure this out, is him and his body double. How do you tell them apart? In case the body double, is to survive this. I don't know that there's a way to do that really clean, but like, if you care about it, that might matter to you. And then the third is how often is he separate from his protection? This cyber psycho nightshade. And when you start boiling all that down and deciding, where are sight lines, where's like our good vantage points, how do we set all this up? You might need some time to figure that out. Or any checks used to accomplish obtaining that knowledge might take multiple days off of your timeline. And that's more where you have to kind of think about how you want to run this, as opposed to it being a clear cut and dry, like, this is just how it works. It's something that asks the GM to put in some effort where those things are concerned and to consider them before you really even probably start running the adventure.
So I suppose as we step away from the DLC itself, because at the end of the day, this DLC, it is fantastic that we're getting some I'm glad to see we are expanding out across the world. And not only that, the DLC does mention, and I feel like this adventure very much fits in a mercenary campaign, maybe after you got done with a few jobs and you have equipment that you have that tight operating budget,
right?
That you're getting out across the globe a little bit more. This feels like something that this is like a good test your metal kind of mercenary gig.
Yeah.
But also it seems like towards the end it's good to have some connections. So with that, we go over to looking at open gigs, and like you were mentioning, with the recon, where does he sleep? When does he have? When is the protection there? When is this? Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. What was the other open gig? Was it the Devil's Cut you were thinking of as well?
Devil's Cut is the one from Hope Reborn, and then I'm working on one where it's not the whole gig that's built this way, but the final beat is designed this way, and I'm going to talk about it even though I haven't released it in the broadest terms that I can. So in a sinking feeling, the premise of the gig is your crew is helping a local nomad, a sea nomad, a Thelos nomad, by the name of Mare. And Mare's whole thing is he needs to get to this cargo ship and he needs to salvage some very specific cargo off of that. And in the event that, and this is always going to happen because I give a good reason for why it's happened either way. If your party gets there and they recognize something is missing, they can kind of tell Mare, hey, it looks like someone was there before us. If they don't notice, when you go to deliver the cargo back at dock, the client that he was meeting will tell you, hey, this isn't here. And then you have to go chasing the thing down. So to not spoil my whole gig, where it leads you is into an underwater facility 200 feet below the surface of the water, facing off against this bioengineered nightmare that will hunt you. And so the whole last beat of the gig is figuring out a way to get off this station. Because there are, for a number of reasons, which I won't go into so I don't spoil things, there are complications with doing this. And it basically pits you against a mercenary level threat while you might not be ready for it. But it is one beat of the whole gig. And as a matter of fact, one of the complications, which I will talk about, is a mercenary group who was sent there with the information to do the thing that needed to be done, and they have failed. So you are trying to figure out how to get around this thing. And so the way I presented that last beat of the gig and the way I've currently got it written, again, I'm still kind of going through the editing and refactoring kind of process right now with it. But the way that I built it as it stands is that there are about 3 different ways I've written that this can end, right? And that you can get off this station. Your players might figure out another one, but there are 3 main ways that I've designed into the adventure that lead you getting off of this thing. Part of this is you have to figure out, while being stalked, what has happened here. And then you need to see about either figuring out how to deal with this threat and getting rid of the problem that way, or escaping it and getting the fuck home from 200 feet underwater, when you may or may not have access to scuba gig, like a scuba rig. And so it's very much, the way I consider that is very much like this gig kind of does, which is to say, here are the complications. Here are some tools your players might find if they're going through these specific areas or investigating these specific elements of a room. And this is the rules for how this creature moves throughout the facility. And it's a lot of fun.
It's terrifying.
It uses a region of the setting which we have not used or seen used by Artel themselves yet, which is the Deep Downs, which I think is very cool. And I feel like the fact we haven't seen it utilized prior to this is disappointing. We should have seen this before now. But yeah, my approach is very much put the tools in your players' hands and see what they'll do with them. And they might discover something totally new and novel. They might figure out a way to solve this that I did not think of. But the thing that is following them has weaknesses. They can learn about them. They just need to get access to the right areas of the facility, essentially. And do so without this thing finding them. Or if they do, they need to make sure that knowledge is shared before this thing gets them. Because once it gets them, it's going to get real ugly real fast. Ask Diamond how she knows. She was one of my playtesters for this.
Oh my god. So yeah, and the way I like to call I also like to call open gigs sandbox gigs. More because it is a big open area. And usually, like sandbox, there's not like really an objective. You're more doing your thing. But in this situation, you have an objective, but you are doing your thing to get there. And I like these kinds of gigs where they do have some set parameters. Sort of like with the Devil's Cut, which, I mean, light spoilers. You have to learn the habits of some of the people that you are stealing from. And or like that is a way that that's a way that you can get in, is you can learn the habits of these folks or figure out like, you know, what their schedule looks like. You have to take time to, like, bullets will, like, shooting everything will not be the answer in open gigs.
Not usually, yeah.
It can fix a lot of problems, but it also creates more problems.
There's,
you know, for example, like with Seeing Double, shooting everything, you only have so many bullets. They have a lot of bullets, and they probably have more things than you have.
Yeah. Yeah, guns are the last resort outside of killing your intended target. And that's the real complication.
And like, Broken Circle has decided to go out and start just seeing, okay, what are the people like around here? And, you know, they've met some of the normal residents.
Bartenders.
Also the cadets. And have become very aware of a threat that didn't show up on the intel. the delinquent investigators. So it is important, I feel, with these kinds of open gigs that you give the party a reason they need to investigate. Because also on top of that, in the section getting better of the core rulebook, exploring is something that earns IP. Encourage exploration during open gigs. They need to figure out how they're going to get to point B, because they're at point A. They need to get to point B. How are they getting there? They need to explore.
Right. And that is a big deal. And I think this can probably be a little intimidating for GMs, especially if the scope of your gig is an area that's larger. So my recommendation, especially as someone who's currently writing something in this sort of space, is start very small. Don't be afraid for your open area to only be a couple rooms in a facility or something like that. Mm-hmm. But like, think of it more like an escape room and less like a typical gig that has like a concrete beginning, middle, end, because it may have some very fuzzily defined beginnings, middles, and ends. It may not be super like resolved like when you come in. The resolution on that is probably going to be a little shaky. And so you need to in part discover where the middle of the thing is so that you can find your way to the end. In Sinking Feeling, I've literally got the most common way that players will find themselves where they are is being dropped there, pretty literally, and they just need to solve and figure it out, because like there's nothing that's going to help them. No one is coming for them. They are on their own. And so it's like, all right, here are the stakes. You try to lay it out for them as quick as possible. Like, this thing is hunting you. It has already taken plenty of lives before you. What are you going to do? Like,
and like with Broken Circle, these guys have just become aware that they can't just storm the base. They can't just mosey their way up there. Like, sure, there's all these people that are on the right side of the fence can probably kind of get about there, but even then, those that live in the yellow districts aren't usually supposed to be in the green districts or linger around for too long. And I'm interested to see how they figure this out. And they're only one source of contact to help. They only know by a name, and that's about it. So other than that, they need to find the tools that they're going to use on their own. And this could even apply to players. Like, for example, with doing a heist, after they've scoped out the area, what kind of equipment are they going to need to get the job done? How are they getting that equipment?
Right.
And then, what route are they taking to get in there? Because I have seen, for example, with the Devil's Cut, I have seen the con job, I have seen a scam, and I have seen just full stealth. And well, not a scam, but disguising as the employees and making their way in. And then also, of course, these guys putting on masks and sneaking down and getting the goods and getting out of here. I've seen many different approaches to these things, and that's what makes open gigs fun. No two parties have ever, like in any open gigs I've run, have ever solved the same gig the same way.
Yeah.
So when we look at as GMs to plan an open gig, Emmerron, we have our hook where the fixer says, hey, my client needs X and is willing to pay this much, but it's over here at Y.
Right.
And you need to get it by Z.
Right.
With all those parameters laid out, we enter and we know what the resolutions could be. This big bubble that is between the hook and the resolutions, what are some things that we sprinkle in there for open gigs to help players figure out how they're going to get from A to B? Like, what major things should be put in writing for this?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I say, like, the best way to think about open-ended gigs is like an escape room. Think of what you're putting in there for your players to find. What things might have an unintended use that your players might find useful. And then find a couple routes out that you can, like, immediately identify and know, like, if they follow this road, they will get out. If they follow this road, they will get out. But knowing that it's up to them to figure that out, right? There's no one's going to hold their hand or tell them this is where something is. They might reference, their contact on the ground if they have one, like asking them, okay, knowing that this is, what we need to do, we've discovered X, Y, and Z. Can you clarify for us if you've heard anything about these things? And, like, define for themselves some loose hold of, like, what they're looking at. But yeah, a lot of the open-ended gigs are literally thinking about, like, an escape room, planning it like an escape room, and then watching your players ferret their way out of the escape room. Either through a route that you've already kind of pre-identified as, like, this is doable, or via a route that they create themselves because they were creative and figured that out in a way that maybe you didn't foresee, but is no less valid than the ones you did. And that's, with the one I'm writing, that's going to be a little harder to do because of, 200 feet under the ocean and all that. But I think for Broken Circle, we can figure it out.
And something important that I have already done that I've been holding close to my chest, but I will just make it slightly known about Broken Circle. And they do a good they do a good job of this also in Seeing Double. When you are dealing with people, when people are an obstacle in the way, humans are creatures of habit. There should be some kind of timeline. So that way players are not always having to guess, oh, but what if this? Oh, but what if that? Oh, but what if this? If the players are going in trying to not be seen, it should be assumed business as usual on the ground. So this does mean, perhaps there's only like so many guards on duty. Now, maybe if the guards catch wind that something's up, maybe a couple more get put out on patrol. If they know there's a threat, there's probably going to be double what the mercs are going to be dealing with. That being said, schedules are important, and also locations. Have locations ready to go, so that way when the mercs are investigating where their target is going or where the thing is they're stealing is at, you have that fleshed out. I'm not saying you need to have a detailed, high quality map of everything, but like what I'm doing for Broken Circle, and I don't know if Emmerron, if you were to do something different, please, I would love to hear it. But like with me, with the city map that I'm doing, when these people find points of interest, I drop a token. It doesn't need to be anything over the top fancy, but it's, hey, you've discovered this. Dropping a token here. Yeah,
I like that. I think one of the other players, I don't remember who it was the other night though, did say that like it felt a little more kind of like the typical, like you climb a tall tower in a Ubisoft game and suddenly you see more of the map.
And that's where I pulled that from.
And I do dig that. I think that if you are going to have a gig where you're playing at the scale that Broken Circle does, and you've got like a large geographical area that could be explored and for like different POIs to be discovered, that is a really good way of marking that out and figuring that out. And I know Foundry has some tools like that let you literally like pin location data to the map, and you can like hide or reveal that as the gig kind of develops.
Yeah.
So like,
and I think Roll20 has that as well. I just I'll just be probably filling that in throughout the week.
No, then that's fair. I think that Merc gigs by their nature, unless you're talking like something real small, like we're talking like, you know, you got to get a convoy or attack a specific base in the mountains or something like that. If you're playing a Merc level gig, and that Merc level gig has you going to one of these larger settlements, you almost have to do that in advance, because that whole city or that whole encampment or whatever, that's your escape room. The settlement is this escape room. It's a massive escape room, which is why I would recommend, if you're thinking about trying this, start small, start approachable, because this is a lot of work. And unless you are like really invested and have like a really good idea about like the way that things are going to lock together, this is going to be maybe a little overwhelming, especially if you're a newer GM. But it is very worth it if you watch it play out in the end.
Also, on top of that, something else that I actually learned from you guys that I found that I liked when it comes to mapping is that information, especially during open gigs, we're kind of hammering on this, but information is another weapon that can be added to the arsenal. That alongside schedules where things are, people that you need to keep an eye on, like these guys, they met Martha. Martha is a bartender who 0 Day kind of was able to suss out that she knows things, but she seems to be a little intrusive as well. And you were able to dodge a trap on day one. Like, well done.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you have to be looking for those everywhere in a situation like that, right? Like,
oh yeah,
they can't know I'm not who I say I am. So like, that's where from now on, 0 Day is Samuel to every one of these fucks in this camp. That is not his actual name. Like, he is not going to give his actual name. He is just going to present himself. This is who I am. Like,
and also on top of that, with these open gigs, the random encounter tables, I feel random encounter tables are helpful. And adding some personality to the area. Like, you have all the important bits and pieces put in place. Where the special item is to get you from point A to point B. The opposition, locations, schedule. You have all that important stuff. But like any good Cyberpunk plan, you have to throw a wrench in the gears at some point. Single player mode, I feel, does a good job of it, and use your imagination also with some of the random roll tables there. And the only reason I am pushing single player mode as hard as I am is because it is not only a good way to play Cyberpunk RED by yourself, it is a fantastic tool for when you're feeling that maybe you want to throw something in. That is a good way to do it.
It's a GM kit. There's like a big GM kit element to that product that like I feel like a lot of people overlook. That like it's not just a GM book that you get so you can play the game. It's literally like, if you are a game master, you will use these tables.
Roll tables and a little bit of randomness. And when I mean randomness, I don't mean like the big people schedule. I'm talking about the mooks. Perhaps perhaps like with the Broken Circle crew at some point, they're going to be doing something that might be a little questionable, and the police drive by. And I always put police in quotation marks with these guys because, I mean,
yeah,
they're a bunch of academy rejects that are given a badge and a stick and a gun and told, okay, just make sure they're working. That kind of nonsense. Maybe there's just a chance that a patrol might pass by, and these guys are suddenly going to have to, all right, do we keep going, or do we just stop, freeze, run? Adding that extra level of it, especially to mercenary campaigns, I feel is going to be very helpful in keeping your players on their toes during open gigs.
Yeah, I could see it. But yeah, I think we've been pretty comprehensive about this whole topic. So, do you have any cues that we might provide A's for?
I have two, actually.
Oh boy.
First one was from that was more about the first half's topic about player accessibility. And I know we have had some discussion about this, but I feel with some of the knowledge that we've gained over time, that maybe it's time to actually look at a more defined answer. I think we've talked about it before, but the question is from a fellow GM. When I have new players in their first campaign and they've run some games early on, and I've run some sessions early on, when do I take that next step up in the difficulty? When do I throw hardened mooks at them?
When they're hardened.
Yes, and in the Hardened Mooks DLC, they talk about when edge runners are hardened. Now, I understand when there is a solo 4, when as soon as solo 4 shows up, that's a hardened party.
No, that is a hardened player.
That is a hardened player.
Everyone needs to have something that qualifies them. So when all of your players are hardened, then you may throw like whole parties of hardened mooks or lieutenants or whatever.
Yeah.
Until that happens, though, sometimes hardened mooks will be fine because they play a little closer to like lieutenant level if you're compared to like the normal scaling. So some of those are okay. You do anything beyond that, you are asking to kill your whole party. Ask me how I know. So
I would.
It's not something I would recommend unless you and your party have an understanding that there are realistic consequences to their actions. Case in point, last week on Neon Inferno, my party decided that a mercenary company, which I very much was explicitly like warning them, this is a mercenary company that like literally was single-handedly responsible for solving the problem of riots and social unrest in this city 10 years ago. Like, these guys aren't pushovers. I warned them about that, and they still decided that trying to steal from a convoy of these guys was a smart idea. That whole crew was hardened with stuff from the SOF, like back stuff, right? Like, they had military gear because these guys are an actual mercenary company. They're not gonna fuck around, and I'm not gonna play fair with my players like that because they chose to poke a beehive. Sure, they were given a gig, but they accepted, and I warned them up front what that looked like for them. They had every opportunity to say no to that. And so they poked the hornet's nest. They're going to get all the hornets and exactly how they look. They aren't going to get a softening of them. But if you are running a gig and your party is not entirely hardened, even if there's one player in your party that is not hardened, I would recommend being very careful with your use of hardened mooks. I would say put no more than maybe an equal number of hardened mooks to the number of your hardened party members, and anything else you have in that encounter, play them normal. Like, make a normal mook, normal lieutenant, whatever.
Yeah, and if this is the group that I think it is, which this is a friend of mine from back home. So Paige, if this is who I think it is, I know you have one solo in your group. I would say, you're going up against a gang of Maelstrom. It's gonna be like a mixture of maybe some scavs, so like some standard mooks. And then maybe you have one more that's in the mix that might be a hardened mook, and maybe this guy's got a little bit nicer armor compared to the others because he got it and he gets those kinds of privileges. Maybe he gets maybe a flashbang or a smoke grenade or something like that. But I would not go too over the top on new players right out the gate. Maybe session 5 or 6. But other than that, yeah, like what Emmerron said, that perfect balance of like 1-to-1 it's worked well for me. Emmerron, I don't know for you, like that 1-to-1 works for you as well.
Most of the time that works for me, yeah. Like unless I really want to punctuate the sentence that like says no, you're fucking with big players right now. Do not do that. Like that, and that was very much what that encounter was intended to be, is like you're playing with the big boys. If they played the objective, they could have gotten out of there with the stuff. The problem is they did not play the objective. They played it like an all-out assault, and they did some damage and then got half their party killed. So yeah, it's
another, I suppose another way, another alternative before you step up into hardened mooks is perhaps a number of mooks equal to the party plus 1. So that tips the balance in the enemy's favor. So perhaps the solo's got 2 booster gangers crawling all over them with their rippers out, while the rest of the party is dealing with some of the other mook shenanigans.
Well, I'm bearing in mind because I think I've talked about this in a combat balance episode either that we did or that I did on How to GM. I may have talked about in both places. You've
talked about this in How to GM. I remember you've talked about this.
Remember also that each level of enemy, like Mook, Lieutenant, Mini Boss, Boss, are equal to a number of player characters, right? In terms of their supposed strength. So if you want to weigh the scales against your party without making it feel like each individual enemy is overpowered, you can, instead of throwing a bunch of mooks at them, maybe you throw a couple lieutenants at them. And so maybe say you have like a party of 4 people. By throwing 3 lieutenants against that party of 4, you have technically gone +2 on them. Because you have 3 dudes on the board. Each of those dudes is worth 2 of those edge runners. And that is another way that you can kind of balance the scales without going to hardened. Because what hardening does, so let's maybe talk briefly, I guess, about what is hardening compared to just leveling up the mook to a lieutenant or whatever. Hardening will typically give the character at that level of proficiency a couple more stat points, a much larger gear budget for their level, and usually more HP and more combat potency. So they will get a higher combat number. They will get a bigger arsenal of things to use against your party. And in some cases, it can give them a role ability where otherwise they may not have had one, or more ranks in a role than they otherwise would have for their level. So these are things that can dramatically and fairly exponentially increase the efficacy of that character on the board, compared to simply taking them up to the next level, which makes some of those things go up still, sure, but you're doing it with the understanding that this is no longer a 1-to-1 fight. This is a 2-to-1 fight or something like that. So that is why not to harden and instead just level up your mook to a lieutenant or whatever. That would be why I would say to do that before you do the other thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the second question popped up, and this is in regards to open gigs. This is from Fish. So Fish asks, when adding sub objectives to an open gig, what, like, should it be a distraction from the main objective? Should it benefit the main objective? Or should it just be its own standalone endpoint?
So, in my opinion, and I'll be curious to hear Diamond's thoughts on this. In my opinion, you can use them a couple different ways. If they are a sub-objective of your overall mission, they will likely always have something to do with it, right? Now, if we're looking at seeing double as our example, right? That sub-objective might be a complication, right? Which is like, we consider the leaving the body double alive and seeing double to be a sub-objective, then that complicates things significantly. Because now it's not just we're going to snipe the body double and the main guy at the same time because we don't really want to go through the trouble of figuring out who's who. We now need to actually go through the extra time and boil down which is which and how we're going to identify that. And once we do that, then we can take our shot or whatever. But in that case, it's a complication. In Broken Circle, it's also kind of a complication that, like, we getting the leader of this, like, hate group out alive is going to be a monumentally difficult task. There's no clean way for us to do that. Not really. But if we can do it, it's worth our time. I would almost argue it should never truly be a distraction from the gig. It should complicate it, and it should complement it, potentially. Like, there should be a good reason as to why you would pursue that sub-objective. But I would almost argue there are very few things I could see being good sub-objectives that would serve as, like, a full-blown distraction or red herring, because you've been given that sub-objective by your employer, usually.
Now, if you decide to put something out there that's an ooh shiny, and, like, you decide that, hey, this might be a good idea to try to pocket this on the way out, make there be consequences.
Yeah.
And these guys are going to have to face the other end of this. One of my groups, and this was more something that, like, during the open gig, which, you know, they had a lot of space to work around in. One of the party members decided that she was going to pocket something valuable that she saw on the way through this rather generous executive's apartment. And mind you, at the end of this gig, they would have actually not only stolen from out from underneath this executive, but they would have also possibly had this executive as a contact. So, you know, con this guy, but also make them, you know, basically stealing. Oh gosh, I guess call it a David Copperfield, in a sense, where they were just, you know, out to bag a proprietary piece of tech that, you know, this exec had, or philanthropist. And, well, she took a rather valuable ring that was spotted that had a real emerald on it. Lo and behold, that turns out to be the executive's wedding ring, which has the real nice ability for the spouses to track each other in case of an emergency. The other spouse was out of town, so she couldn't notice it until she came back from a trip to South Korea, where she worked for the Kendachi Corporation. And, well, I let them forget about it. And then this lady had her door kicked in.
Oh boy.
And she had already sold the ring on top of all this. But she was the last one seen with it, according to the biometrics.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, if you decide to add the ooh shinies in there to possibly detract from the objective, don't make it that it suddenly hampers the rest of the adventure for everyone. make it so that individual who decides to grab the object in question or take on that other objective on their own volition, they get nabbed, and maybe the others get a little collateral out of it. They just, I'm all about playing a little unfair from time to time, but you gotta be just a little fair about it. That's my thoughts on the matter. Other than that, if it's like, take this and I'll see if I can fence it for something a little more, sure, great. But other than that, side objectives are usually there to either benefit the story or benefit the payout.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty valid. I think the important thing to remember too is that mercenary campaigns, which is where a lot of these open sandbox kind of gigs fall into, mercenary gigs are never about what can we loot. It's always about the objective, right? Mm-hmm. Because ultimately any spoils of war get turned over to your employer at the end. So like you are in a way disincentivized from being ooh shiny about most things, unless it is like a on the ground asset that is actually useful. For example, the Idaho Park Service drone package that I managed to get my hands on. That has been immensely useful as operational material. But like anything beyond that sort of useful stuff in a Merc campaign, you're not about the ooh shiny unless it directly benefits you. That is like a critically important thing to remember for that kind of open gig specifically. If you're playing an open gig for edge runners though, like a heist or whatever, like you stealing the shiny should just be complications. It's very, very rarely, unless you've been hired to use that shiny thing as a sub objective. Like they have this giant ass diamond, and if possible, if you extract with this, will up your pay, and therefore giving an incentive to go after the shiny specifically. Unless it's operationally helpful, there's no good reason to go after that.
Yeah, and I think that's everything on my end. Did you have any other questions?
Let me double check my Discord.
Oh, I heard a chirp. What's that chirp for?
I don't know what the chirp. What chirp?
Oh, I had one more question come in, which I'll present it if
Fun.
Do you have anything?
We got one from Oscar. Does the NetArch backpack have charging ports for the drones? I believe that they do run on some kind of rechargeable batteries. I have
rechargeable batteries.
Yeah, I figured they had like some kind of chargeable battery pack. Most drones do.
Which, I mean, you can buy more if you earn yourself some, new circle merits, or if you happen to have eddies. But why would you have eddies? Why aren't you using our currency?
I mean, it's simple. Not everyone pays in eddies, or not everyone pays in merits. Outside world pays in all kinds of stuff.
So I have one interesting question. It comes from a couple of friends from back home. Diamond, why is it better to just get a regular cyber deck instead of any of the cyber decks out of midnight with the upload? We all know that, it's just better to go stock instead of whatever they have to offer. Well, I see you're just trying to rage bait me here just a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Don't try to rage bait me, as we all know that the Kerberos is absolutely one of the best cyber decks that you can have for hunting down dwellers. But at the end of the day, as a netrunner, you choose your tools that you're taking on the job. Yeah. End of story. Take the hummingbird if you're a high enough netrunner that you don't need everything else. It's just a little hardware.
Yeah. I'd almost argue that your Kurama decks in here, other than the training deck, are almost better than their stock counterparts, just because that unsafe jack out functionality is like actually kind of goated, where you just don't unsafe jack out ever. That's very powerful. Depending on what build you're going with, that can be very, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't sell that stuff short. Because you cannot, unless you get a tech to help you, you cannot get that effect via hardware. So like you need some of those decks to make that happen. But no, the cyber decks in Midnight with the Upload are very specifically, they require an advanced, I would say this, they require more advanced understanding of net running than you would get just by reading the net running chapter exclusively and then trying to do your like theory crafting based solely upon that. Once you have some real experience and see how powerful it is, for example, like I used to sell short running Black Ice on a cyber deck. I used to not really understand
love it,
how powerful those were. And then I saw Killer used on a cyber deck for the first time and realized, oh, I've gotten this so wrong for so long. Holy shit. Yeah. So that is a very real, like you figure that out by doing a little more, I feel like, than by reading and thinking about it that way. Because the actual doing is what's going to show you why those decks are good.
And also on top of that, with Midnight with the Upload, each of those decks have specific purposes for why they're made. And the bonuses they give are usually going to help you with getting yourself to completing a certain vision that you have for each deck. Like for me, when I played as Diamond, I acquired over 5 cyber decks, and the Kerberos, I use that when I'm hunting netrunners. It's just like, all right, boys, fetch. And also having like the Microtech Warrior, that thing with 7 slots that only install programs, but you can just have armor keep popping up.
Yeah,
just like that is nice. Just have a bodyweight suit and you get and give it a couple hardware slots. Done.
Yeah.
And even Black Chrome's got the extra hardware slot as well.
I believe it was clarified that any restrictions on the deck apply to any extra slots you give it from other things. So technically you can install hardware even if that hardware goes in something like a bodyweight suit. Yeah.
Did I miss this in a Q&A?
No, I think it is explicitly in Midnight with the Upload. Let's see. Any additional slots gained, so it's in a sidebar, of course. So bodyweight suits and cyber arm decks. All the new cyber decks in Midnight with the Upload can be installed normally in a bodyweight suit or a cyber arm. Any additional slots gained can still be used, but are subject to the same restrictions as the cyber deck regarding programs. For example, if you have an SGI Technologies Warlock's book installed in your cyber arm, the extra slot required can only be used for hardware or for booster and defender programs. So you are still limited. So if it says it cannot install hardware, you cannot have hardware on any of those bonus slots.
And but with that, like, take some time to look at the different cyber decks and decide if this is something that you want to build around. Like perhaps you're playing, you want to do like I call it the summoner, where you're using Black Ice primarily and you want a certain style of Black Ice. If you want to do anti-personnel, get the Kerberos. Load a couple Hellhounds in there and just send them.
Yeah.
It's a great time.
One of my favorite things after learning the broke-ass incredible ability of cyber decks when I have the money to afford it is running a killer and a giant on a rank 7+ netrunner, and then just being like, 4 net actions, all right, watch this. Killer, knock down all your defenders. Giant, knock you out of your own network if you don't have a crash barrier, and if you did have a crash barrier, you still just took 3d6 damage straight to your noggin because I just killed your armor.
Yep. And then also, look at the hardware as well. I mean, there's some awesome stuff in there, like Snake Trap. You should take Snake Trap.
Snake Trap.
Always take Snake Trap.
Snake Trap is very good. I wouldn't say always. I wouldn't say always take it. It is much like cyberware, like nasal filters. There is a time and a place in which you take this. It does not have to be every single time. It does not need to always work. In order for it to be like taken by you, but if you have a snake trap, there are some situations you'll run into. Like if you're running a razor thin margin on your cyber deck, you definitely want a snake trap. But if you've got a room for spares in your cyber deck, because you're running like some 9, 10, 11 slot nightmare that you built out of the way which we could like cooked up to like maximize the slots on a cyber deck. You probably got the room for a couple of bonus installations of sword, or armor or whatever, to not worry so much when an asp gets through your deck and kills one of them.
But with that in mind, I think that's everything on my end.
Yeah, and I didn't have anything on mine.
And I can smell this pie behind me, so... But anyway, any last thoughts from you tonight, Emmerron?
Nope, nothing from me other than to just do the shill thing. We have a code.
Yes.
It is Wireheads, and you can use that code on telsorianstore.com in order to net yourself some very nice books. This is anything, and I do mean anything, that they sell on that storefront. It gets you 10% off. It gets us 10% kickback for what you pay for those products. So we both get to win. And that is very, very cool. So if you want to get something new that is not sold on DriveThruRPG exclusively, like the interface volumes from 2 onward, or the net running or trauma decks. So you want to get like the core rulebook or Black Chrome or like the CEMK. Any of those things are sold through telsorianstore.com, and you can use our affiliate code Wireheads to get 10% off and give us a little bit of money as well and support the show. Other than that, that is going to be our show for this week. Again, we will not be here next week. I'll be in the airspace somewhere between Louisville and Charlotte. And so we'll be back that following week for episode 69. Nice. Of Wireheads. So until then, yeah.
Which, yes, I'll be putting notes out there also on the Reddit about getting some tier lists put together.
Yes.
So right, I'll let you close this out.
Yeah. So submit those tier lists. Go to my Discord. Go to our Wireheads Q&A channel. If you are prone to using Discord, you can also send them to us in our DMs. Or via our email address, which is wireheadspod@googlegroups.com. If you send it to either of those places, we will get it, we will read it, and we will consider it as far as our final kind of decision making for what we want to do as far as tier list stuff goes. But until next time, my name is Emmerron.
And I'm Diamond Dust.
And I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Stay healthy, stay safe, and until we see you again, peace.
Bye-bye.